Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Malaysian Higher Education Institutions Quality Assurance Network MyQAN Webinar Series 2 2021-2022 on Good Practice Sharing Webinar, Effective Role of Internal Quality Assurance IQA. The objective of this webinar series is to inculcate quality assurance culture, share practices and experiences platform among its member institutions. For your information, this webinar is co-organized by Universiti Teknologi Mara, UiTM, and Universiti Tunku Abdul Rahman Utah, representing the MyQAN training unit. And I am Husna Zainul Abidin from UiTM will be your MC for today. Without further delay, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Hamimah Saleh, Deputy President of MyQAN, to deliver a welcoming remark. The floor is yours, Prof.
Okay, thank you very much to the MC Husna, Husna Zainul Abidin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good afternoon to all participants. First of all, I would like to thank you, MyQAN training unit. I'm not sure if Prof. Datin is here, but she is one of the unit, one of the person who are actually responsible together with Miss Low, Prof.
I'm here, Prof. I'm here. Hi, Assalamualaikum.
Thank you so much to the training unit, Prof. Datin, Dr. Susanna Sulaiman from UiTM, and also Miss Low Syrian from Utah for organizing this event. So this is a very important event to all of us, and I think we've been doing this, for the new sessions 21-2022 committee. I think this is the second one on the good practice sharing webinar. And I also would like to welcome and thank you to the panelists today. We have Professor Dr. Azizah Abdullah from UiTM and also Miss Evelyn Gan, to share with us in this webinar. With that, a very simple welcoming remark to all of you. I hope to the rest of you, thank you for your participation, and we hope this webinar is beneficial to you. And if anything, please give us some feedback, not only about this webinar, but also to any events or any input to us about MyQAN. So with that, I would like to thank you again to everyone. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll pass back to the MC. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Hanin, for the opening remark. Okay, before we continue with the webinar, let's have a group photo. Okay, with that, I would like to request all participants to turn on the camera for the photo session. Okay, Ms. Low.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Husna. I would like to invite all the participants to switch on your webcam. Then my colleague will take photo. Nadia, please let us know when you are ready.
Okay, I'm still waiting for their camera. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we will start with first page first. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Next is a second. One, two, three. Third. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and last row. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay.
Nadia, I suggest we take one more round.
Okay, can.
Because just now maybe some not yet switch on the backend. Okay, we will take one more round. The photo. Okay. Smile, please.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, next. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Done.
Nadia, is it done?
Yes, Miss O.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Husna. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lo and Ms. Nadia. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today we are honored to have two speakers to share their experience on IQA in their respective institutions, Professor Dr. Azizah Abdullah and Ms. Evelyn Gan. For your information, you may pose questions to the speakers through the chat box, which will be answered during the Q&A session. Okay, now allow me to introduce the moderator for the webinar today, Technologist Dr. Hamimah Ujir. Technologist Dr. Hamimah joined Universiti Malaysia Sarawak UNIMAS in 2005 and currently a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Computer Science and Information Technology FCSIT. In 2003, she received a National Science Fellowship Scholarship Award from the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, MOSTI, and completed her master's degree by research at the Faculty of Computer Science and Information System, Universiti Teknologi Malaysia, Skudai, Johor, and later graduated with a PhD in 2013 from the School of Electronic, Electrical and Computer Engineering, University of Birmingham, United Kingdom. Technologist Dr. Hamimah's research interests lay in the interdisciplinary field of computer vision and pattern recognition. Her previous and current works include 3D physical simulation, biometrics analysis, and academic quality in higher education. Technologist Dr. Hamimah currently is the Director of Academic Quality Assurance Division, UNIMAS, since 2019. She has been involved in accreditation process and academic programs development in UNIMAS since 2013. She was the chairman for Malaysian Public University Quality Council MPQ for 2020 to 2021, and she has served as an auditor for the Malaysian Qualification Agency MQA and Malaysia Board of Technologies and Board respectively. With that, Dr. Hamimah, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Associate Professor Dr. Husna, for the introductions. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon, everyone. We would like to welcome all MyQAN's members to our second Good Practice Sharing Webinar series organized by MyQAN Training Unit, UiTM, and also UTAR. Our theme for today's webinar is effective role of Internal Quality Assurance, IQA. So I'm Hamimah. I'm from Academic Quality Assurance Division, Universiti Malaysia Sarawak. So I'll be responsible for moderating today's session. So as mentioned by Dr. Husna just now, we are lucky to have two esteemed speakers with us today, Prof. Dr. Azizah Abdullah from UiTM and also Ms. Evelyn Gan, with two interesting topics. One about the self-accreditations, another one is about the IQA, inculcate the cultural, the internal quality assurance culture in higher education. So without further ado, so our first speaker is Prof. Dr. Azizah Abdullah. Prof. Azizah will talk about the self-accredited status university balancing the act UiTM experience. I think these very interesting topics. So let me introduce first Prof. Dr. Azizah. So Prof. Dr. Azizah Abdullah is a professor of Management Accounting at Universiti Teknologi Mara, UiTM. She has served the university for 34 years. And currently, she is the Director of Internal Quality Assurance, Institute of Quality and Knowledge Advancement, InQKA, UiTM, actively involved in coaching candidates for Chartered Institute Management, Accountants, Strategic Case Study, and her research interest is accounting education, corporate governance, risk management, corruptions, and also management accounting. Okay, so I would like to remind everyone, so if you have any questions, please put your question in the chat box. So now, I would like to welcome our speaker, Prof. Dr. Azizah. So the mic is yours, Prof.
Thank you, Dr. Min. First and foremost, I would like to say thank you to MyQAN Training Unit for inviting me to speak about the internal quality assurance. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. So I'll be sharing with you self-accredited Status University, Balancing the Act UiTM Experience. So, balancing the act is much required for an internal quality assurance unit. This is because once a university is awarded with a self-accredited status, the internal quality assurance unit is like the representative of Malaysian Qualifications Agency. So the unit needs to report to MyQA as well as the university's top management. So here, what I'm going to stress is about the balancing the act is a process in which we're trying to please two or more parties, or groups of people or group of authorities who may have different needs and requirement, and on top of that, sometimes some requirements are competing. The internal is expecting one thing and the external is expecting another thing. Okay, next slide is that I'm going to share with you the facts and figures about UiTM. So we can see here number of campuses, faculties, colleges and academic centers, the staff, number of students as well as number of programs. So I think you would agree with me that managing academic programs of UiTM is like managing 34 universities because of its various locations. So we have got 34 campuses. Each campus has got its own rectors and lecturers and so on. So we have to manage all these 54 programs at various locations, and some programs we have at many locations. All right. Next, I will be looking at, I'll be sharing with you if you are self-accredited status university, you would have this certificate. You must have this certificate, okay? The certificate to indicate that we are self-accredited university. So UiTM has got this self-accredited status in 2017. So IQA was formed in March 2017. So our task is like overseeing the accreditation process and as well as academic program registration at Malaysian Qualification Register. So we are responsible in assuring that UiTM's academic program meet the MyQA, COPA standard, MQF, and respective MyQA program standards requirements. So for your information, we operate under, just now Dr. Mim highlighted that I'm the Director of Internal Quality Assurance, which is stationed at Institute of Quality and Knowledge Advancement. So this institute is headed by Assistant Vice Chancellor, so we call him or her Assistant Vice Chancellor InQKA. So under this, we have got 5 units focusing on accreditation, quality system and operational excellence, innovation and creativity, communication and knowledge advancement, as well as the administration. So IQA, Internal Quality Assurance of UiTM, has its own unit, as a unit headed by me. I have got 3 to assist me, 3 lecturers to assist me. So Dr. Husna, Associate Professor Dr. Husna is Head of Program Accreditation of Science and Technology. Puan Linda Abdul Hamid is Head of Program Accreditation Social Science, and Associate Professor Dr. Kamarul Arifin is the Head of Program Accreditation for Offshore. We need to separate the science and technology from the social science because of the number of programs. Remember, we have 504 programs. The unit is small, but we are assisted by 2 fellows, T.S. Muhammad Sharim Hashim and also Encik Muhammad Elfi Abdul Rashid. So there are 6 lecturers managing the IQA, and we are being assisted by 2 administrative staff. Puan Nur Alisa as the Executive Officer and the administrative assistant is Encik Muhammad Syafiq Mustafa. Okay, next is we are going to look at our task. The task, IQA task is managing academic program evaluation for accreditation purposes, as well as assessing curriculum review document, and also conducting site visit academic accreditation audit if any new program is introduced, as well as if we have any additional location to offer a program. Let's say if we have, remember we have got 504 programs just now. So if one campus, one campus wanted to offer a program, then we also conduct a site visit as well as we evaluate its facilities, okay? Its facilities and resources, educational resources. We facilitate submission of accreditation application to the professional body. So out of 104 programs, we also have professional bodies to serve. So we facilitate the faculties to deal with the professional bodies. We also evaluate the capacity and capability of institutional partner. For example, just now I mentioned we have got offshore programs. So these offshore programs involve collaboration with the international universities. So we do evaluate their capacity as well as capability of our institutional partners. Those are our tasks, IQA tasks. Okay. I'm going to share with you the UiTM academic program accreditation governance process. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have got 34 campuses. We have about 23 faculties now, and we have 3 colleges. We have academic centers, about 5. So these faculties or campuses, when they want to have new program or when they need to submit any accreditation to MQA, they will prepare the document, which then being submitted to another unit. We don't advise on the documentation, but we just evaluate. So another unit is being established in the university. We call it Unit Hal Ehwal Curriculum, or we call them UHAC. So Unit Hal Ehwal Curriculum will facilitate the faculties and campuses and also academic centers and colleges on preparation of the document, If it's a new program or if there is a curriculum review, Unit Hal Ehwal Curriculum will bring will present to Jawatan Kuasa Induk Quality University, which will approve on the new program. They first approve on the new program. Once it is approved by the Jawatan Kuasa Induk Quality Assurance, then it comes to us, the internal quality assurance. Here, what we do is that we evaluate, we assess, and we conduct the site visit and so on. And then we bring it up to the Senate. Actually, Unit Hal Ehwal Curriculum has also presented to Senate before coming to us. So you can see that our program, if it's a new or audit pematuhan and so on, it goes to Senate twice. One through Unit Hal Ehwal Curriculum, and after being evaluated by us, then we go to Senate again for the endorsement. Okay, so we do conduct various evaluation, which is typical evaluation that being required by MQA. For example, we have here provisional accreditation, full accreditation, curriculum review, as well as compliance audit. Okay, here we add in here offshore program and professional bodies. So this offshore program, we follow through COPA, but we do not actually ask the institutional partner to write everything based on COPA, but we simplify and we share this with another unit in UiTM, which is another unit, we call it ICEP. This unit deals with the international. So we are like in the middle. So you can see that we need to act, we need to balance. Sebab tu tak lupa macam belakang dia. Okay, then so here you can see that we are balancing our act. We are meeting the requirement of the internal wanted to have offshore program, but we must ensure we also comply with MQA as well as the KPT's requirement, especially when we go abroad. Okay. Next is that here we should realize that when we have self-accredited status university, you are in the middle. You are to ensure that the flow from internal to external here including MQA. So we consider them the external stakeholders, the MQA, that we must really comply with that MQA. External to us are parents, because nowadays that the parents, if they want to register their children or they want to apply to any universities other than our university, they need to have they need to upload the MQR. We also have employers. Need to meet the requirement of our employers because of they need to have MQR as well. We also need to serve our potential students, other universities, as well as international organizations. So sometimes the international organizations, what they need is that for the purpose of migration, further studies, and so on. For the internal here, we have to deal with our academic affairs division. This is like the one that I mentioned here. Unit Hal Ehwal Curriculum is under the academic affairs division, which is now being led by our professor, yang berbahagia, Professor Datin Dr. Suzana Sulaiman. She is our newly appointed TNCAA here. And beside the academic affairs division, we also have our campuses, faculties, and academic centers, and also bursary. Okay, here, what we did, our task is not only to evaluate and assess the program, we also manage the registration with MQR, registration with MQA in MQR. So that involves money. Okay, we have our panels that involve money to pay them, and we have 504 programs that involve money when you deal with accreditation, and also we have our professional program. So we are lucky that our boss are very supportive. So we are given an allocation, separate allocation from other management allocation. They call it special allocation, accreditation allocation. So I can just register provided it is verified. So I really sort of like need to be accountable to the money, to all the money that goes out from that pool of accreditation pool. So I was given that responsibility. Okay, coming back to the balancing the act. Why I call it balancing the act? This is the balancing what we wanted to achieve, the IQA wanted to achieve, and the stakeholders' expectations. When we first got this self-accredited status, we want to do something lean. And we need to change. We need to change from where we are. And we need to have some kind of synergy, understanding, and the system has to be systematic, and we must be responsive to external changes as well as internal changes. But our stakeholders, when they see self-accredited, oh, it's self. You do your own, so you must be very lenient. You can be lenient, and they become very complacent, and they sort of like, okay, you do it, it's all yours. Everything I want you to do, but you must do it in high speed, and I want it now, so it's rigid, okay? So, with looking at lean and lenient, we want to compare lean and lenient. We want to be lean, but we do not want to be lenient. But they say, come on, you know the university, you know the system, so you can do alignment, you can align between, you can negotiate with MQA. You can do it for us. But we must remember, MQA governs by the Act. So we cannot actually simply say, okay, I'll negotiate with MQA. So it is more on the evidence-based. It is very evidence-based. So we cannot be lenient. And we are not harsh, but we want evidence. So this is like quite a challenge to us to have that. Next one. So the challenges is that when we first started, it was in 2017, it was everything hard copy. So when you have hard copy, it's time consuming. And looking at the unit, you can see we have only 2 administrative staff to support us. We have limited storage, definitely, and we have limited manpower to sort of sort out the hard copy, and it may not be cost effective as well. The second challenge that we have when we got our self-accredited status is that the complexity of UiTM system, the geographical factor, and we also, on top of that, we have these academic administrators on rotational basis. So these academic administrators, for example, I'm a lecturer, so I need to teach, I do administration, I need to do research, and my appointment is like every 2 years you will get another person. But so far, I've been doing this for 5 years because we know that we need to have the system stable, then we can replace. But for other posts, academic administrators, remember that those who are preparing the documents, they are in faculties and campuses. So then when they change, every 2 years you change another person, then you change another one. So this is the 5th year. So you can imagine that the changes is already 3 times for the academic administrators. So when you have this rotational, you would have learning curve among them. They're just about to learn what is accreditation. How do I do this? Who do I refer to? And what's the process? What's the procedure? Suddenly, their term is over. And sometimes you have people like, okay, never mind, it's only 2 years. Accreditation is not due. So these are the things that we have to face, the challenges. But how do we deal with this? How do we deal with our first challenge is that the hard copy, and then what we did was that we use Google Drive. We share our Google Drive, And in fact, at the moment with the pandemic, we use online meeting among the panel as well as our ketua here, our head here, to evaluate online, and at least we guide them through online. And then we mentioned here limited storage. The limited storage, we are coming off with a system where we call it as iCredit, Accreditation Tracking and Management System. So we are coming with that system so that once the faculty, we sort of like replicate what MQA is doing, but we do it internally so that the faculty fill up the online, okay, the COPA, they do it online, and unit health and world curriculum will take up from there, and any changes will be, any comment will be online as well. So we can do audit trail as well. Who did what? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have our accreditation tracking and management system. I think with that, we can actually solve our first challenge as well as the second challenge, because academic administrators, once they are in, then they can go to the system. So they cannot say that they don't have the documents and so on. It's all there. And then for the third challenge that we are having, the learning curve among new academic administrators, we conduct training to the academic staff twice a year. So we do that. So with the experience of 5 years self-accredited status, the biggest university in UiTM. So we have another expectation to meet, that is fulfilling MQA and MOHE requirements. Sometimes we need to change. When MQA gives us many directives and so on, but we need to convey to our internal stakeholders about the changes and so on, but they think that why should we change? There's a reluctance to change because they're so complacent. For example, if we look back, MQA started in 2007. So we have got many programs being offered prior to 2007. So we have to sort of like change the mindset of being the public university when they know there was no governing body govern you. So at that time it was a change that okay, MQA is governing us, but then now there's a change of okay, MQA is governing us but through someone internal. So I have to sort of like educate our internal stakeholders that we are doing this for MQA, and but you have to do like MQA is evaluating. Do you think do you like doing it, or you think it's hard? I think it's a bit difficult with a large university. So any introduction of new policies and guidelines by MQA, we have to do it very fast. So what we do, we have to communicate. So it is important to have these communication skills, and we need to communicate all the time with the faculties and campuses. And the other one is that I would agree with MQA now introducing experiential learning. This experiential learning is very much needed among us. We should not only be learning from the books or from the articles, but we have to learn from what being experienced by you. For example, we experience over 5 years, we experience very detailed requirement from MQA, but we are able to accept the challenge from MQA. So experiential learning is important when you want to do changes and when you want to meet the challenges, especially from the internal parties. Next will be about synergy. We want some synergy. Remember that we have many parties here. We have many parties, faculties, campuses, and we have unit hal ehwal curriculum, and we have ourselves, and we have external. But we want very much to have like interdepartmental collaboration. But sometimes interpretation of an issue, you would have different interpretation. So here, you need some, again, communication as well. And the other one, sorry, can you go back to the previous slide, please? Internal stakeholders' expectation is that we are separate. You deal with academic accreditation. Academic accreditation matters belongs to IQA only. So when this mindset is that academic accreditation matters belongs to IQA only, there are times when you have like questions from faculties and campuses which actually they can answer, they can actually respond, but they think it has to be responded by IQA. Okay, it has to be. So the challenges is that when you have big universities, many campuses, many parties involved, you must ensure consistent information is being communicated to external parties as well as internal parties. Then this misperception on accreditation matters responsibility has to be explained to our internal stakeholders. So what do we do is that we create a committee, we call it Jawatan Kuasa Perakuan Penilaian Program. So this Jawatan Kuasa Perakuan Penilaian Program is chaired by our Assistant Vice Chancellor, InQKA, and the committees include myself, my team members, the heads, and we invite faculties representative whenever that faculties have programs to be accredited. We invite professors as field experts. We also have our academic affairs divisions representative as well as unit hal ehwal curriculum representative. So we sort of like, okay, come together and understand the issues and about the program and so on. And during the meeting, we will discuss and then we bring it to Senate. We also have sharing sessions with other departments and campuses to ensure that they understand the accreditation matters. We also thank MQA for their monitoring. MQA has got their monitoring where we have to produce laporan dui tahunan. Twice a year we submitted the report. We also, because of their monitoring, then we are alert with what we have and what we do. So for example, in 2019, we have got this audit susulan, which is focusing on governance. So Alhamdulillah, UiTM has got a smooth audit on that. In 2021, we have got audit surveillance. This is a very good audit, focusing on data management. And can you imagine, with my 504 programs, how would the data be? And bear in mind, we have got programs prior to 2007 with various accreditation. We must show whether these programs are in the east, and also sometimes we have duplication, and then we admit that after having these two audits, then we straight away go for the iCredit system. And at the moment, we are preparing our document for renewal of self-accredited status. This is also very helpful, at least make us realize whether we are outdated or updated with our policies this time. Last time it was with our data, but now with our policies. Dealing with external stakeholders, external stakeholders, they want immediate action. They go for speed, but we go for systematic, because we all must remember that we are a public university, which we have our procedures, our governance, so we have to follow. Action has to be taken based on the university governance as well as MQA, with regard to list of new policies and guidelines by MQA or MOHE, because of too many programs, too many geographical factors, so the complexity and so on. So what we do is that we do by stages. We need to do by stages. We need to prioritize our program, which one should go first, which one should go later. So normally we do give priority to our diploma and undergraduate programs. And then followed by the postgraduate programs. Okay. Next is that the curriculum, the external stakeholders is quite rigid sometimes with regard to the graduate skill set expectation based on the program name. But now we have got this curriculum design which based on future skill set. But good that we have MQA who's very responsive to the changes coming up with the new NEC 2020. Then that would help make us to make the employers understand the graduate skill set based on the program name. So the challenges is that the newly introduced interdisciplinary programs. So this one, I think, but we need to work to go further with this, to make them understand, especially the employers as well as our students, to understand the interdisciplinary program content and understand the NEC 2020. So I think I'm coming to the end. The conclusion is that balancing the act as an internal party at the same time fulfilling the requirement of external parties. Definitely we need to have synergy with all, and training, experience, skills, competencies, learning, knowledge, ability and growth has to be there, and collaborations must be there. With that, I thank you. Thank you for listening, and Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon.
Thank you, Prof. Dr. Azizah, for the amazing presentations. I think what I can pick up from your presentations is, Prof, is the first thing is the key of the communications. The key is the communications and cascading informations to the, to the programs, making sure that they understand, the buy-in, everything.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. Okay,
right.
You will keep all the questions for question and answer session. Let's just after this, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mim. Over to you.
Okay, so our next speaker is Miss Evelyn Gan. Let me read the bit of biography for Miss Evelyn. All right, Miss Evelyn Gunn serves as the Manager and Privacy Officer in the Policy Planning and Quality Unit at Swinburne University of Technologi Sarawak campus. Even though we are in Sarawak, I never met Miss Evelyn actually. She and her team work closely with all units across the university in managing the university self-accreditation status, accreditation exercises, policy documents, SETARA, university strategic planning, and compliance with regulatory bodies including MOHE, MQA, and the Department of Personal Data Protections. All right. She is also a full member of CPA Australia and a competent communicator from Toastmasters International. All right. So other than managing the university's internal quality assurance system, her research interests are in the areas of leadership, strategic planning, and human resource management. All right. So Miss Evelyn will be presenting title Building a Quality Culture, Progressively Pursuing Quality. So let's hear from Miss Evelyn.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hamimah. May I just have a quick check if everyone can see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So today, as what Dr. Hamimah has mentioned, I'll be presenting on building a quality culture and progressively pursuing quality. So this was basically from the survey that some of the participants may have filled in. So based on the word cloud here, in which you see the text that are in larger font, basically are the words that appear frequently. So I think the participants' general expectations today is to know more about IQA, the role of IQA to get more information on good practices. And I think Prof. Azizah has given us a very comprehensive presentation just now around the various documentations and voluminous work indeed that's involved from both the IQA, not only the IQA unit, but all colleagues from the university or institution as well. So hopefully today we'll be able to fulfill the participants' expectations as well. So allow me now to just give a short introduction of Swinburne University. So we are basically an international branch campus from Australia, which has been established since 1908. So basically we are in the category of foreign branch campus university, or in Malay it's campus cawangan luar negara. So Swinburne Sarawak has been established since the year 2000. We started off as an institute, and subsequently in 2004 we were upgraded to be a full-fledged university, where we offer courses from a diploma right up to a PhD. So we are also majority owned by the Sarawak state government. So it's a collaboration between Swinburne Australia and the state government as part of the long-term strategy by Swinburne Australia to globalize its operations and provide students with affordable international living, working, and learning opportunities. So Swinburne Sarawak is also a self-accredited university. We were in the first batch, so we have held this status since 29th of April 2010. So basically we are also facing the same or in the same situation, and also do face many similar challenges as what Prof. Azizah has gone through in detail just now. And Swinburne is actually due for the renewal every 5 years as well, and we'll actually be having our audit visit in about 2 months' time from the MQA. All right, so I come from the policy planning and quality unit. So these are some of our key roles and responsibilities, which include institutional and program level accreditation, in which we also play the role as the mini MQA, and we also manage SETARA. We manage the license with MOHI, with MQA, and I also play the role as the privacy officer, so we handle overseeing the Personal Data Protection Act. And we're also handling, my unit also handles the university strategic planning, which is the vision, mission, and goals, the campus plan. And we also handle coordination of all the policies, procedures, the SOP, the policy framework as well. So the motto is progressively pursuing quality, which is also similar acronyms as policy planning quality. So just to elaborate a bit on why we chose this motto is basically to start with, progressively is something that's developed over time. Like how quality is, it doesn't come overnight. It is a journey, indeed a long journey and an ongoing one. And because of that, it's very important that we celebrate small wins as well, and not just within our own unit, but I think from Prof. Azizah's presentation as well involves a lot of collaboration and a lot of cooperation from the other units as well. So it's important that we celebrate the wins together as a whole institution. And we also need to proactively pursue quality. It's something that is not passive but proactive. It's something that's intentional, and indeed it requires a lot of effort. There is a lot of paperwork involved, a lot of documentation and report writing as well, and continuous CQI. So quality, of course, is the most important. It's probably the ultimate goal of every institution, to meet and exceed the expectations, as what Prof. Azizah has mentioned also just now, not just internal expectations but external as well, and many a time they can be on both sides of the spectrum. And that's why it's very important that for quality that we do continuous self-review and have continuous improvement at all times. So just to share a bit, at Swinburne here, we actually have a Swinburne culture, which is known as Swinburne behaviors, which goes beyond basically what we do, but how we do things. And I think as an IQA unit, especially, where we are a lot of times at the center of coordinating the whole university or institution's exercises, we really need to work very closely with all the departments across our respective institutions. So allow me to just go through it briefly. So of course, has been mentioned several times by Prof. Azizah as well, around communicating is really important, the way we say things. It's important that we have the conversation, we respect each other's differences, we give meaningful feedback and share honestly and openly, as every stakeholder has different expectations, whether it be internal or external, and many a time they could be conflicting as well. And hence, it's important that we listen and learn. We hear what they have to say and we learn from it. We learn from one another. We actively listen, which is sometimes challenging, especially when we have debates and when we are both saying different things, but it's important we make efforts to actively listen, so the other person knows that although we have different views, we are at least listening and considering what they're saying. And of course, we need to always very quickly resolve conflict and be innovative, because indeed, to meet especially external deadlines, MQA deadlines, there is probably very little room to have much debate or back and forth, because we have to meet the deadlines. And of course, collaboration is really very important, that we work constructively with each other, and we all, despite our differences, share a common purpose to achieve the university's goals. And of course, having trust and being open to and with others is really important. Acting with fairness and respect, which I think is at the heart of the IQA unit, to preserve integrity. And it's important that we inspire positive expectations and communication effectively. And last but not least, doing it is really very important, because if everyone is discussing and talking, but at the end, action is the one that gets the thing moving. So it's important that it's institutionalized across the whole institution, that everyone has a strong sense of immediacy when something needs to be done. Everyone is willing to take practical action and to see it through to completion. All right. So this indeed is what an ideal quality culture look like. We have ADRI, or for some institutions it's the PDCA. And probably those in the IQA unit, you have it at the back of your palm, or all memorized already. And we have the COPA as well, the Cooperative of Program Accreditation, which several of you may be familiar with as well. And some of us may also be going through ISO as well. So indeed, many things to comply with, and this is the ideal situation where we can comply with all of them. Nevertheless, the reality is that when it comes to quality culture, this is really how it looks like, and it is a fact that you say audit again. Although yes, everyone's aware we have to comply with that. We have the act to comply with, and everyone is indeed well aware we all have to do it, whether we like it or not. So indeed, if we look at this diagram, we also probably do not want to be in continue in this situation as well. So what we can do, and what I'll be sharing later on, is how we can actually have a more people-centered approach in that sense to be able to help build up a quality culture. So just back to the basics to examine first what is actually a quality culture. So I actually basically just went back to the simplicity of looking at the Oxford Learner's Dictionary on just taking a step back on what it actually means. So quality basically means a high standard. It means excellence. This is not just, of course, applicable to higher education, but in any thing as well. For example, if we go and eat, of course, if we're looking for nice food, we'll expect that it's of high standard and it's something to our liking. And culture is the customs and beliefs, the art, the way of life, and social organization of a particular country or group, or in our case of higher education, of our institutions. So this indeed centers around people, the culture. So I basically thought about it and actually have this people-centered quality management framework, which basically is an inverted pyramid, where I do, from my experience, believe that people are actually apportioned in the pyramid here, because internal motivation, self-regulating or self-policing, and having a quality culture is actually most important. It sits at the top of the pyramid in that sense. And then, of course, we do not discount the fact that we need the monitoring, the review, the CQI, and of course, the policies and processes. However, when you think about it in operations, when it comes to implementing, at the end of the day, we can have all the policy, the processes, all the monitoring, review, CQI, all that very nice on paper, but we need the people to be willing to implement it on an ongoing basis, and not just when IQA unit sends an email or when MQA comes to, for an audit. So people play the most important role in the success of any quality management framework, and indeed high quality culture, policies and procedures, and effective implementation really requires people to be at the heart of it. Okay. And a reality check now is that I believe even post-COVID especially, hybrid work arrangements are here to stay. It's not just, hybrid work doesn't mean just working from home. It means now that staff will have the flexibility to work from anywhere, even if they go traveling or outstation, or if they're out in a cafe or meeting place and they say that this is the place for me to brainstorm, for me where I can think quietly. And I think now staff do expect to have that mobility and flexibility as well, as long as they perform and get the work done. And I think like what we're experiencing today, although travel restrictions are being eased, especially come 1st April as well, online meetings, indeed, I think we have got very used to it already. At the beginning, it was something a bit unusual. Everyone's getting used to it, and now I think we are very comfortable with it. And these webinars, these online meetings are indeed very convenient and are here to stay. And what happens is that I think that for all of us, whether we are professional, administrative, or academic staff, reliance on staff internal motivation and ability to work independently will rise. Like in this picture here, basically, especially when it's online meetings, when videos are not on and whatnot, I think when we teach students as well, we don't actually know whether they are there or whether they're doing the work, or how do we supervise staff when we can't see them? Are we going to call them every second? Probably not, because if we see them face to face, for example, they're not at their workstation, they're at the washroom, are we going to go looking for them at the washroom? The answer is no. So we will rely on them to work independently, and this is something that will become even more important in the days to come. So I like to just put it this way on a lighter note, that quality starts with me, the IQA unit. And then I just got that off the internet, which is keep calm and jaga tepi kain sendiri, which basically means that, yeah, instead of always looking at other departments and talking about them on how they don't do things correctly, why not we start looking at how, especially as an IQA unit, perhaps we could see those challenges as opportunities for ourselves to work more effectively. So I believe especially it starts within the unit first, because I believe that you need to be able to manage your own unit well first, and then you can start to influence positively others, because of course others will look at you first. If you can't manage your own unit properly, then why are you even looking at managing our work or telling or even asking us to do things? So that's where staff engagement is very important within the IQA unit, and as those of us in leadership roles, and in fact I would say not just leadership roles, everyone in your own right can be a leader. You don't have to even have a direct report. That you can have an influence on others and lead by example in by just being a good role model, and of course having collaborative leadership, which is I think something that's very important now, especially now that I think top down is not really the way to go. It's collaborative, it's bottom up where possible. Of course, top down there are times where it's needed, especially when it comes to quality or compliance. It's many a times still needed, but on an ongoing basis as part of CQI, being collaborative is very important as well. And team unity is indeed very, very crucial. So my unit, this is my department. We have 5 people, including myself. So we went through that period where we had the MCO, where basically we couldn't meet at all, or we couldn't even go to campus. It was shut. And in Sarawak, we also have very strict, I think Dr Hamimah will know, different sometimes requirements for federal, and so we couldn't reopen fully for quite a long time. Actually in 2020 it was off and on, so we were actually practically working from home for several months throughout the year. And so during that time, how basically in my unit that we engaged, we continued to meet online. We did games for appraisals as well. I did a workshop for them to brief the staff on it. We also did internal knowledge sharing among ourselves, basically so that the knowledge doesn't just rest with one person. In case one person's not around, at least the other person knows the basics of how to do it so that the work won't get stuck there. We also did daily check-ins, which were basically online meetings we had each morning to just check in on how everyone was doing. And yeah, since we couldn't meet up for meals, we did virtual lunches through online as well. And though these things seem very simple, I did find that it was very important in building up the unity among my team as we were all not able to meet physically. And these are just some more of what we do. As well, we also in our physical office also had a place where we put up staff's achievements as well, so that they would have sometimes get inspiration from it, especially being IQA unit. Sometimes also we go through several challenges, so just a reminder there for them as well. And we just did several things together as well, which was just really important because we do go through very sometimes stressful and challenging situations as well. So it's important that that staff stay together at all times. And now I will just move on a bit, and I extracted this from the Guide on Compliance Evaluation for Self-Accreditation Universities, but I believe that the definition here is applicable across to all. I thought it was a very good definition of IQA. It is basically a plan and systematic internal monitoring and self-review process of an institution or program to determine the acceptable standards of education, scholarship, research, facilities and infrastructure, as well as our ultimate client, the students' total learning experience are being maintained and enhanced. So in simple terms, basically we can do several things, but the desired outcome at the end is, does it benefit our students? Because we can do several things, but at the end of the day, it must be outcomes based. So at the end of the day, that's why if you notice that especially when NQA does audits, not just for self-accrediting, but for those even at course level, they will always want to triangulate and see what is the impact on the stakeholders, be it students and alumni and industry as well. Okay. So at Swinburne, our approach is our educational framework uses the ADRI approach, which is similar to the PDCA. So I think in simple terms, basically IQA is the higher education providers' continuous improvement processes or frameworks that will be validated by external quality assurance standards. I think that's why we have the IQA unit as the gatekeeper. We make sure everything's in place, and then that gets validated when we have an external audit, say from MQA, for those of us who are self-accrediting, or at the cost level from those who get the cost level audits from MQA, and of course for all of us as well, including self-accrediting from the professional bodies for program accreditation, for example from MBOD or from EAC. All right. So I'll just try to explain this in simple terms as well on what this ADRI actually means. So I'll use throughout this presentation here an analogy of baking a cake. So the approach here, I would put it, it's actually like tools. So if you want to bake a cake, okay, it is possible to bake by hand, but it would be ideal that you have a mixer and a good mixer, because I think that determines the quality of the cake that will be produced as well. Because if you imagine if you have a mixer and you're all set up to bake a cake and halfway your mixer just doesn't work, then you won't get the cake. So basically, in terms of enabling processes, examples of what an approach or a tool is that we have governance frameworks. These are basically high-level principle-based documents, internal regulatory frameworks, program development approvals, and strategic planning. So this is what lays the foundation. Very important, fundamental. These are the tools. Okay, and indeed, as what is in the red circle here, the approach is actually the one that takes the most, in the sense, I think, thinking and planning, because it's not easy to come up with all these frameworks, with all these regulations, but it is the most crucial and most fundamental to get started. All right, so that's the thinking and planning stage. And next, after we have all that, yes, it's good, then we need to deploy, we need to implement. So if we have the cake mixer sitting there, it's sitting there on our countertop in the kitchen and we're not doing anything with it, then nothing happens. It's sitting there looking very nice and shiny. So now we have to get down to doing work, so we need to have the ingredients. Yeah, so examples of those are the more operational documents, like we have the SOPs, we have the procedures, that's how we process our process documentation. We have professional development manuals for staff. We have our student charter, which sets out what we expect of students and what students can expect of the university as well. And we have a student support frameworks as well around how we support our students for their total learning experience. So these are more operational documents in terms of deployment, where it talks more about implementation and doing it. And it provides support in the approach or in the tools that the university has come up with. Right. And the result improvement, I basically categorize it and put it together because I believe they're very closely linked. So indeed, the result, as you can see there, doesn't always come up perfect. Yeah, there are cracks on top there. But I believe that many a time, there are times for rework, but as you can see there, it's not totally it's still all right. You can cover it with nice topping there. And so I think what's important here especially is that when the result comes out, it's fine that it's not perfect, but there is, of course, because as you can see, there are many cracks there, there is always room for improvement. So when it comes to the results, it's always, of course, the time to monitor, evaluate. And the examples of these are academic performance reporting, assessment benchmarking, through program accreditations. That's where we will typically have the audit report. Of course, there will be commendations, and there will, of course, be recommendations as well. So I think it's important that everyone has a continuous learning attitude rather than being resistant when we receive concerns. Or I think when the colleagues want to receive feedback from IQA unit, instead of, I think, resisting in that sense that we're trying to find fault and whatnot, I think it's important that everyone is open. And of course, the ultimate factor is the student feedback as well. I think student feedback, we cannot overemphasize the importance of student feedback, which is really important that we take on board. So that's why quality is indeed an ongoing journey. Each time we break, hopefully there are less cracks, and we continue to become better and better in terms of learning and adapting to the several changes. And here I would like to just summarize it in the sense the key roles of an IQA unit based on 4 C's. I think the first one is, of course, to check, as you could see from Prof. Azizah's presentation as well. There are many things to check in the IQA unit, but at the same time, for colleagues who are also helping to put the documents together, there are also several things for them to write. So I think in summary, the the role of the IQA unit in terms of checking is to check that there's effective implementation of the IQA system, to basically check that what is put on paper is being practiced. And that is really most crucial, because from any audit, if you're experienced from MQA, that's the purpose why they carry out on-site audits, they carry out interviews. They want to ascertain that what we have written there is actually happening in reality. And what's also important for the IQA unit is to collaborate, that we hear people out, no judgment. Sometimes we just need to let them speak, even though there's not an immediate solution. At least let them be heard and consider what they have to say, and work together towards a common solution. And the third one, echoing what Prof. Azizah mentioned as well, is to create the right perspective. That it's important as the IQA unit we explain the rationale, and we just emphasize that the IQA role is simply ensuring the system is implemented accordingly. It's actually nothing new. We're not asking them to do it as well. We're basically either carrying out the directive from MOHI or MQA, or we're basically just monitoring that what the university in that sense has come up with is being implemented. And last but not least, connecting with the top management, getting top management support and buy-in is very, very important. And indeed, top management have several competing requests as well. Everybody wants to be heard by top management. Everybody wants to get their support as well. So it's something that IQA unit needs to proactively manage to increase the visibility, so that it is very clear that quality is everyone's responsibility. All right. So just to share briefly as well, what Swinburne has done as well is we took MCO as managing change optimally. So we actually had several audits already scheduled, and then MCO hit. So we didn't delay any of those. As the IQA unit, we also was the steep learning curve for us, because we actually had never done this Makava or these online audits before that. We were also equally new with setting up how we're going to do the audits via MS Teams, how we're going to do virtual campus tours. But instead of delaying it, we took the step to work with the academic units to help them set teams up and to work closely with them. So we carried out all the audits as scheduled in blended mode when we were able to return to the campus for some of us. And what we did also, which we also started for the first time, was that instead of just carrying out audits and asking people to write reports and asking people to go for audits, was that we also did a survey to find out stakeholder feedback from both the auditors. As a self-accrediting university, we engage external auditors and internal auditors, and we also got feedback from the academic units. They were the ones preparing mostly all the documentations, so that we could actually hear from them, and we actually received a lot of very good feedback on what they experienced as well, because we are actually playing the role of the IQA. They are playing the role as the document preparer. So many a time, if we don't sit in their shoes, we may not actually know what they experience. So we actually conducted a survey among both the panel and academic unit. And what we did also that time was that we did face several challenges, because virtual blended audit was very new for everyone. We took that as opportunities to continuously innovate and come up with key initiatives to keep trying to address those challenges as well. And what's very important is that we also took note of the not just the opportunities for improvement, we also took note of the commendations, and we made sure that through our either through our university newsfeed or newsletter, in that sense, that we actually made these audits visible, so that people knew that it was happening, and people knew that their contributions were being recognized as well. And of course, we also came up with action plans and CQI after we had the findings from all these audits. Just give you an example, like if the academic units felt that they had very little time to prepare the extra requests for information and whatnot, we actually came up with improvements to the schedule, just to rework it a bit to give them more time to prepare the documents. Okay, so that's that. So yeah, Prof. Azizah also in this picture, we did some benchmarking beyond these 4 walls. So it's very important that I find that sometimes indeed we are, and it's a fact that we have a lot of paperwork, a lot of operations to deal with, but looking beyond that and benchmarking with universities, we managed to do it with Monash, with Nottingham, with UiTM was really, I found, and I think my team found it valuable as well. And hopefully our colleague counterparts who we engaged with was that sharing of good practices, we found it very useful because they were just many things that we couldn't see or we didn't experience that other universities or other institutions had experienced, and we picked it up from there and brought it back to our respective institutions as well to implement where we could. All right. And indeed, a collaborative approach. What my unit does is that we organize an annual accreditation workshop every year with the academic units, where we actually have two-way communication on the continuous improvement initiatives that my unit comes up with, and we also consult with them when we want to say implement a change in a process or procedure. We actually consult them first. We do that consultation process before we make the change, and that way we found that it actually reduces any miscommunications and hopefully reduces the learning curve as well. And what we do also as part of collaborative approach is that I know many a time people tend to be resistant when we say audit. So what we do is we call it something called internal process review as like a soft approach instead of audit. And the idea is that first, of course, it's internal, and it's not fault finding, and we focus on what can be done better, progressive outlook, and from there we brainstorm solutions together. So what we do with this is, for example, if there are new directives or circulars that come from MyQA or MOHI, and we know that it's something that we don't have in place yet, we will initiate this with the heads of the academic units and talk to them about it first, and from there we work together to carry out a internal process review, which will be a win-win situation, because at the end of the day, when there are circulars or directives, it is important that we are ready when MyQA or MOHI asks us for a report. And equipping our human capital doing capacity building is also very important. As a self-accrediting university, we need to build up our own internal auditors. So what we do is we actually have training for them. And we also introduce, this is similar to what is available during the engineering audits. We introduce an observer role so that they get hands-on training and practice before they become the official auditor. So here, maybe some of you are facing frustration from receiving multiple duplicate questions or spending significant time manually responding to each person, or each time someone answers it's inconsistent depending on who gives the question, who answers the inquiry, and in case someone's on leave, then there's delay. So this is what we experienced as well, what my unit to a certain extent also did experience. So what we did, and this is also in support of our university's vision mission, which is people and technology working together to build a better world. So what we did was we leveraged on technology, basically something called self-service, where we offer stakeholders the tools and information so they can find answers to their questions. So you can think of this as something like how if you want to find your answers to something, instead of needing to call the help center, you can go to the website and find the answers. So this was actually built by one of my team members along with input from my whole unit, and we collaborated with the other units as well to get feedback, which was basically we built a wiki. So it's something like if you think about it, Wikipedia is built collaboratively, but of course in this case we do not open it up to all our colleagues to be able to edit, but we collaborate with them in the sense that we come up with frequently asked questions. We have a question bank there which continues to grow over time. It is quite large now already. We find that these are questions that colleagues always have, so we basically list out all the questions there, all the answers, so that each time we, as what Prof. Azizah mentioned, sometimes it's on term basis, people keep changing, and so sometimes the new person will always keep asking the same question. So instead of getting frustrated with them, which is also not fair because they are taking on the role on the term basis, is that we direct them to the FAQs so that they can read for themselves first. And of course, after that, if they have further questions, they are welcome to ask further. But at least it provides a baseline for basic questions they may have. We also have several circulars and letters from MOHI, from MQA, and from other regulators. So we have that documented here. We also have information sessions, and a lot of them and continue to be online. So we have them recorded with all the slides uploaded here, so they can be revisited. And we also share what's going on through the PPQ unit, as well as when we have the audits and whatnot. Is a place here where we recognize the contributions by everyone as well. And what we have also introduced very recently is course status, because usually you have several questions. Is the course approved by MOHI, approved by MQA? When is it approved? So sometimes we have the same question coming from several people, so now we actually have it tabulated here. When people ask, we'll just direct them to this web page. Okay. So coming to the end of my presentation, in conclusion, quality is a continuous journey. So we need to maintain a steady marathon pace, I think, not sprinting, because we will burn out. So we need to just keep it steady. And it's important to engage with, I believe, your institution community and beyond as well, benchmark with other institutions. And of course, be always open to learning and improving at all times, which is very, very important, I believe, at both a professional and personal level. Alright, so thank you so much for lending me your ears for the past more than half an hour. So thank you so much, and over to you, Dr. Hamimah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Evelyn. So brilliant acronym just now. MCO stands for Managing Change Optimally. Very, very good. All right. I think what we can pick up from Ms. Evelyn, there's a lot of things that you have presented just now. One thing is unity must be done in a small group. Then you bring the same spirit to the larger group, so that we can achieve at the same understanding. Right? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Evelyn. So we have come to the question and answer sessions. All right. I have a few questions I picked up from MyQAN members, and also from the chat box here, and also from the questions that we asked the participants to fill in when they registered for these sessions. Yeah. So I think I would like to go to the first question, which is, a general one for both speakers. All right. The first is, what is the most challenging things that you have experienced as the IQA leader? Can we go for Prof. Azizah first? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mim. Very challenging question to answer, because there are many challenges. I remember when we first got the self-accredited status, that's a time when MQA wanted all the programs prior to 2007 has to be re-evaluated. That's what they call it, deemed accredited. So we have about 180 programs, 180 deemed accredited programs. So I had to work with Unit Hard Ehwal curriculum. They came here, remember I highlighted the challenge about having hard copy documents.
Yes.
They brought into my office with a big lorry, and we must have 3 copies of each program, 3 copies. So we filled up a room with all this. So that's the first challenge that I had. And then we are newly established unit. At that point of time, I came in with like almost zero knowledge, but I consider myself like a fast learner. So I learned. That's why I say experiential learning. So I learned, because remember our current Datuk Vice Chancellor was the Assistant Vice Chancellor at that time. So I learned from her. I learned from my superior. So I learned through the readings, as well as I learned through the website. So those are the challenges when you come in immediately and you take something new and you're not familiar with. That's a challenge. Then the other challenges are that communication. we have to communicate with the faculties and campuses, but we are lucky that we have, we already have this InQKA for many years. In fact, we had this jaminan quality, unit jaminan quality dalaman back in 1996, which I was one of the auditor. So we use those knowledge, those establishment. We have got this, what we call head of quality units. So we use this head of quality units to solve our problem, our challenges. So we have people with us backup. So I think we managed to overcome the challenge. That's why I said it's quite challenging to answer the question because we have many challenges, but we managed to solve it out. Okay. I think it goes to Evelyn now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, echo what Prof. Azizah said as well. Indeed, we have many challenges as well, but I think over the years, as trying to build a steady pace as well, is to see each of the challenges as opportunities as well for improvement. So I think indeed one of the challenges is because I think quality of accreditation, it just goes hand in hand with very voluminous paperwork as well. And I do understand when we ask colleagues to prepare the reports, they already, I know, have enough on their shoulders already. Right. And as what for example mentioned, a lot of them are academic colleagues as well, with enough teaching and workload already, and now added with some more administrative work. So that challenge is there, but I think how we try to do it as a IQA unit as well is to try to lighten that burden, in the sense that we try to see it from their perspective and to also see how we can facilitate it to the best we can. I think people would usually appreciate it that where they do not feel, in that sense, just being shoved the work, we first hear them out as well, and we work with them to facilitate the process by IQA unit also being well versed with the document and just helping them, for example, to liaise with MQA or MOHI where they have questions as well. So I think with that collaborative approach, it should be fine as well, because at the end of the day, everyone knows that the university or institution will continue to operate only if everyone's complying. Because once there's a non-compliance, everyone knows that will of course not be good for the institution. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Miss Evelyn. Collaborative work. Yeah. Okay. I think next question for Prof. Azizah. How can a university assure to improve lecturers' quality? This is a question from the participants. Okay.
How can university assure to improve lecturers' quality? Like what Ms. Evelyn has shared, is actually, it comes from the individual, right? The individual. It's quite intrinsic for you to actually measure the quality of a lecturer. But then I think we can have this measurement of quality of lecturers by looking at the criteria that being set actually in the COPA. COPA is a good guideline for us to take up as for our planning. But in fact, not only for the planning, but also for our evaluation of the effectiveness of the teaching. Just use the area 2 of COPA, then take up some of it and put it in your index of like measurement for the lecturers. Then based on that, then you measure like what Ms. Evelyn has mentioned. It's PDCA. We identify the KPIs, but people don't like the word KPIs. We put in like the target, put in the expected target for the lecturers, and then we can actually collect the data from there and measure it and compare it with the benchmark to the benchmark dates. And then in the university, our university, what we use is that we use this, what we call SUFO. so far is students evaluation on our teaching. So in the there's a survey at the end of the semester. The students will need to fill up this survey. There are elements of evaluation for on lecturers. Not on lecturers, they also evaluate on the facilities as well. That is one that we use in UiTM. The other one is that we use peers evaluation. We call it ProPens. This is professional evaluation. Like we will appoint someone to be in our class and do observation. So we have the rubrics and they will give you marks. And at the end of the day, we have these two evaluation in our lecturers in UiTM. In fact, remember Dr. Min mentioned 34 years. Even I'm 34 years teaching. Also, we have people coming in. So recently, during the pandemic, we also have this. When we have class online, they will join us as one of our students. And then if they are not able to come in, we pass them the video. So they do their evaluation based on the video. So quite a number of ways of ensuring lecturers' quality for that.
All right. Wow. Okay. Thank you, Prof. Azizah. I think one question for Miss Evelyn. I think most of us here are actually still in the phase of compliance stage, because we call it, right? So how do you, please share your experience. How do you move from compliance to the institutional quality assurance culture?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, yes, there is indeed a learning and quite a steep learning curve there, because to start with, compliance is the minimal, and now we're trying to move to enhance. So I think from experience, the way to do that is to make sure that we are already, of course, at the ceiling of compliance, meaning everyone is willing to comply. And of course, for the enhanced one, I think it's getting buy-in and be able to actually show them what is the benefit from being enhanced as well. I think that for example, I think involving colleagues with benchmarking, I find has been very useful, where their eyes are open to see what other institutions have, and that other institutions will also share how they do it. Then they will be, oh yeah, we can't stay at this stage of just trying to comply and not willing to say put in extra effort. That extra effort has to come in. So basically, they need to have that intrinsic or internal motivation, and of course by doing so they have to see what's in it for them. So doing some benchmarking involving them is firsthand is useful. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I think I agree to that, Miss Evelyn. Benchmarking will always help us to open our eyes so that we can see what are people doing right now, so we can maybe imitate what they're doing, so that we can help our university to improve. Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Evelyn. Okay, so I think there is one question for Prof. Azizah from one of the from Uitn, I think. The question is he needs you, one of the participant needs you to share with us what is the index. Hang on. I need to refer to the chat. Index daya saing for academic programs.
Okay, thank you. This one is actually the index daya saing academic program. It was developed by the academic office. Okay. So it's Unit Hal Ehwal Curriculum who come up with this index. So what happened is that every time a program, if you want to introduce, you want to make changes to your program, then we need the program owner to come up with popularity program. So we must know whether this program is popular or not. Next is the enrollment. So then we need to know the enrollment, the trend and so on. The other one is pengajaran berkualiti and pengalaman pembelajaran. So experiential experience, learning experience, as well as teaching quality. So we want them to bring to the Jawatan Kuasa curriculum in Jawatan Kuasa Induk Curriculum University. The fourth one is employability, because we do not want to offer outdated programs. So they must come up with employability as well as the salary, the first salary of the program, expected first salary of the program.
Okay.
So these are the elements in the index daya sign. So they have to do that. So indirectly, when they come up with new program, or they come up with a curriculum review, they are actually answering COPA as well, isn't it? If you get COPA, then employability. These are all in the COPA actually. It's just that being turned into, we call it as index. So something creative.
Okay. Is this index is used also to do the buku jumut lupus as well?
Yes.
Oh,
So they use this. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Prof. There is one question for both speakers. Okay, how do you motivate or reward your internal auditors and program assessors? Okay, Miss Evelyn, can you go first?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, yeah, that's quite a tricky bit as well. For external, for just sharing for Swinburne, for external, they are rewarded monetarily. However, for internal, the university management decided that it will be considered as part of the service KPI, because our internal auditors come from the academic community. So one of their KPIs they can claim is in the area of service. So that's how they are being rewarded as well on paper. But of course, another way we do it is that I think especially when we involve the internal, one of the motivating factors for them is also part of expanding their network, because we appoint external panel as well. So through there, they actually get to meet other external from other universities, which could hopefully help them advance their research collaborations and beyond. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Prof, how about you, ITM?
We pay both internal and external, but not much. We pay both, yeah.
Okay, this is
I think
it's lagging, isn't it?
what else can we motivate? How else can we motivate? But for the internal, is frozen. Okay.
Sorry, Prof.
Yeah, I think just now it was
missing
internet. Yeah. But remember, I was telling about head of quality units. They can actually join us as the internal assessors, as well as the unit under InQKA, which is quality systems and operational excellence. So they get rewarded somehow under both units.
Okay.
Because we share the same panel. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay, thank you, Prof. I have a question which sounds a bit technical. Okay. You know that when our faculty, our university come out with a target to offer certain programs at certain time. For example, they say that I want to offer programs A in September next year. So how do you make sure that the program owner, follow the milestone that you maybe set up for them, to make sure that the programs are offered in time? And also, do you have like a piagam lah, Prof, Miss Evelyn, like MQA, saying that if it's a provisional accreditation, you have 9 weeks to process, something like that? Miss Evelyn?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Just to clarify, the charter or the piagam you are speaking of is the IQA processing time.
Correct.
I see. Yes, we actually do so. So, what we do is we actually have something called we have an audit register. So it basically spells out clearly the different timelines of when for example, the academic unit needs to prepare the report, and then the time, and then when we will give the feedback as well. And basically, at the end of the day, we are all working together towards ensuring that our panel of assessors or the auditors have sufficient time to review the documents. Yeah. So we do that. So there's transparency as well in that sense. So it's not just one way that we ask academic units to prepare and they don't know when we're going to give feedback and whatnot. Yeah. So we work collaboratively very closely with academic units on that. And from experience, it has so far been working well. And I will acknowledge that there are times when the timeline couldn't be met due to certain circumstances. Nevertheless, we where there is a rationale for it and whatnot, we work very closely together to get it done as soon as possible. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Again, collaborations between IQA and also the curriculums department, yeah?
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Thank you so much.
Prof. Azizah, how about you in UiTM? Do you have that such standard of piagam or in IQA?
I didn't hear, it was not stable. I can't hear you just now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was asking that like NQA, right? We do have they do have this piagams for 9 weeks for provisional accreditations and also full accreditations. So they have to follow the piagam lah. So that is when they have that, so it's quite easy for us for the self-accreditation university to keep up to follow, to monitor the program. So how about in UiTM? Do you have that such piagam as well?
Actually, we don't really have that piagam because the one that work with faculty is Unit Hal Ehwal curriculum. But IQA is that because of remember audit susulan, so we have our own that we must
I think maybe because the
accreditation still that we need to fill out as individual.
oh.
Sorry, Dr. Mim, I can't.
No, because we are missing your voice actually just now. Can you repeat it again, Prof?
Yes.
Maybe Prof. Azizah, sorry, you can switch off your video for a while.
Yeah, you
Yes, I'll see you. Okay. Actually, we do not have any piagam related to the time frame for provisional accreditation of for any program, because the one that work with the faculty is actually the Unit Hal Ehwal curriculum. So they are working with them. So I will be looking at the program only after they have approved for submission to me. So my piagam is the MQA, with MQA, because we have two gatekeepers here. Okay, the gatekeeper, the coming in, it is being, it's the UHAC, in Hal Ehwal curriculum. I'm the gate at the exit side. I will, when he wants to exit, then I'll be the gatekeeper.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I think we do have the same similar structures. We are collaborating with the academic programs, development and also management, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I don't have any questions that here in chat box. Okay. All right. So Dr. Husna. Right, I think thank you again to Prof. Azizah and Miss Evelyn for their sharing. I think we learned a lot from both of you. All right, so it was a pleasure to have both of you with us today. Thank you to all MyQAN's members for attending this webinar. So I think this concludes this webinar, Dr. Husna. Okay. we have learned a lot and enjoyed today's sharing. Pass back to you, Dr. Husna.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hamimah, for moderating the session, and our speakers for today, Professor Dr. Azizah Abdullah and Miss Evelyn Gan, for sharing your experience. And thank you to all participants for joining us today. We hope that the webinar benefits you and your institution in assuring the quality of the academic programs in your respective institution. Okay, for your information, the recorded video and presentation slides will be emailed to all registered participants, and the recorded video will also be made available on MyQAN YouTube channel. Okay, before we end the session, I would like to invite all participants to turn on the camera again for another photo session, since we have more participants coming in just now. Okay, so Miss Low, over to you for the photo session.
I would like to invite all the participants to switch on your camera. We will take another group photo. Now some of you can lead. Nadia, are you ready?
Okay, so
Pergi ambil gambar.
please switch on all of your camera. Okay, let me start. Okay, there's 6 page. Okay, we start with page 1. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, so for next page 2. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, good. Okay, next is page 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Page 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Page 5. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and last page. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, done. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Lu and Miss Nadia. Okay, thanks to all participants. Hope to see you in another avenue. Goodbye and stay safe, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye.
Don't forget to share the picture in MyQAN website, MyQAN Facebook. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.